The American Revolution was one of the most important moments in recent history. It all started long ago, after the 7-Year War. Britain was in great debt and decided to tax the colonists with a few controversial laws. The colonists rebelled and made sure Britain knew of their disapproval. Eventually, the tensions would lead to a conflict known as the Boston Massacre, where British soldiers and a mob of colonists got into a confrontation that led to the deaths of at least 5 people. The first battles of the war were the battles of Lexington and Concord, where British troops marched into Lexington and were overwhelmed by the colonists' militia. Then the same thing happened at Concord. This provided the colonists with a massive win that gave them hope that they could actually be free from Britain. The Battle of Bunker Hill was the second battle of the Revolutionary War. The colonists planned an attack on the British in the hills outside of Boston. The colonists lost, but the British lost 1,000 soldiers. The Battle of Sullivan's Island was a battle where British General Henry Clinton attacked Fort Sullivan. The fort was successfully defended by the colonists, causing the deaths of 220 British soldiers. The Declaration of Independence was signed 6 days later on July 4, 1776. The Battle of Trenton was an attack planned by George Washington on Christmas Day, where he and 2,400 other American soldiers would cross the Delaware River and attack Trenton, New Jersey. The plan worked, killing 900 British soldiers. The Battle of Saratoga was a series of battles fought in northern New York. The Americans were victorious. Their victory was a turning point in the war. Over 1,300 British soldiers were killed. After the Americans' previous victory, France joined the war on their side. The Siege of Charleston was one of the most devastating losses for the Americans in the Revolutionary War. It helped give the British a boost in their plan of taking control of the southern colonies. The Americans were trapped and bombarded for 6 weeks. Over 5,000 of them were killed. The Battle of Kings Mountain was a very important win for the Americans after the devastation of the Siege of Charleston. It helped in stopping the British from taking control of the southern colonies. The Battle of Cowpens almost entirely stopped the British's attempts at taking control of the southern colonies and put Britain in a very bad spot in the war. The Battle of Yorktown was the last major battle of the Revolutionary War. The Americans attacked Yorktown, where Charles Cornwallis and his troops were awaiting support from the Royal Navy. America ended up winning, and Cornwallis surrendered, essentially ending the war. The Treaty of Paris was the official end to the war. It was signed by both American and British officials. It stated that the US was its own nation, separate from Britain, as well as things such as borders, fishing rights, property restitution, and the return of prisoners of war. Here are some fun facts about the Revolutionary War. There were over 230 battles in the Revolutionary War, so not all of them were mentioned here. 231,000 Americans fought in the war. About 25,000 of them were killed. America won roughly 52% of major battles in the Revolutionary War. Some weapons used in the war are muskets, bayonets, swords, and rifles. That just about concludes this video. I hope you had a great time watching it. So in conclusion, Britain unfairly taxed the 13 colonies, so they rebelled. The colonists wanted independence, and a war was started. The colonists did pretty well in their first few battles, despite some losses. They then officially declared their independence and started to defeat Britain and gain a massive lead in the war. France even joins their side. Then, all of a sudden, Britain develops a detrimental strategy that causes them to start winning battles against the Americans. But then the Americans use their superior battling skills and strategic knowledge to defeat Britain. That's all for this video, and I will see you in the next one.